live and podcasting with our shirts inside out in solidarity. It's the Vocal Minority Podcast.
Honestly, I think they look better this way. You know how much we hate sponsors.
And for all the times they put shit on the back of the neck, let them see what it actually says out in public.
Exactly.
Raise your voice.
Fuck you, designers.
Honestly. All right. Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Vocal Minority Podcast. The podcast stands with players. On this week's show, we do talk some TFC preseason, celebrate a qualification, but mostly, obviously, we are going to talk about the situation with the CAN XNT versus the CSA. Now to this week's panel. Annoyed at all of the good kit releases in MLS so far. Welcome to Mark Hinckley.
Like, why? Why can't there be the usual amount of trash? There's so many good ones and they're only like half out.
It's very annoying.
It's stupidly annoying. And I'm not used to being this thrilled with MLS kits. It's kind of like,
I know.
It's
I
kind of
dirty.
like, it's kind of like going to like the Mandarin, where if you just, you just need to skip all of this filler crap and just get to like where the prime rib
station?
is.
Yep.
Just, like,
Mark, this is why we're friends, because we both went straight to.
Yeah. No, like
that was all that was in my head. I was like, man, I love some tempura shrimp, but
yeah, no, you can get some tempura shrimp. Absolutely get some tempura shrimp. But like, skip the fucking noodles, guys. Just skip the noodles. Skip the rice. Skip all that.
Oh yeah, no
carbs, but
man.
Prime rib
No
at this
carbs.
buffet now, and it's like different types of steak, and they're all really good. And a lot of them are from the West Coast. Apparently, that's where they make some of the nicest prime rib. Anyway, I'm sure we'll gab at length at some point in time, either here or on that other thing we do, Kit Nerd
True.
Podcast with your host Brenton Walters. But yeah, it's hey. This is a quicker digression than I was hoping for.
I know. As for Duncan and Tony, Duncan's apparently trying to get educated, and I don't know, Tony has a job or something. Whatever. They're slackers.
Facts.
And they just don't care. They just don't care. As for me, honestly, I couldn't be prouder of the entire XNT. You fucking go, guys. It's fucking great. I am your host, Kristin Knowles. Now to the show. All right, first up is a little bit of what's been going on. And I know you think we're just going to immediately segue into the WNT XNT, but we're not. We're going to save that for the what we're talking about section, because honestly, that's mostly what everybody's talking about. But we are going to talk a little bit about TFC's preseason and, a stadium announcement. Ooh, no, it's not in Saskatchewan. All right, TFC, which is our team, one of our teams. And there's been concerns through the preseason, some of which have been alleviated by some of the signings. Bit of an uneven preseason so far, though. And it's hard to judge preseason play because it's preseason and none of it really matters. I think what the concern has been through the Coachella tournament, maybe it was the outfits, I don't know, too much fringe, is that TFC have a very strong starting 11. Like when they have their choice 11 out on the pitch, which they've started for the most part. Today's match, they've got their last match. I might be done by now, time of recording, but again, they started very strong. Osorio was back, which was great to see because he's still been dealing with some injuries. It is a strong starting 11. Like it is the best, it's all their new players and the best of their players from last season. Basically, the midfield gets a little mixed depending on who they decide to start. Mark-Anthony Kaye, Victor Vasquez, whatever. It's a pretty strong starting 11. Once they start substituting players, things seem to happen. Now, one of the things we talked about last week, and possibly the week before, is the lack of depth in certain positions. and why maybe selling players and not signing players and other anyway. So what made me laugh a little bit, maybe a lot, was to see an article or two, but certainly based on an interview with Coach Bob, admitting the depth is a concern, and mentions specifically the fullback positions and the midfield. Really? No. I was shocked, but not even a little bit, because of course you should be concerned, because fullback position, you're paper thin, wafer thin even perhaps, and midfield, like Jane's off having an adventure. Noble Callows apparently was Zombie Shivas, although, okay, sorry, I'm gonna put in my own digression. Everyone who was snarking about all the teams that Noble Okello trialed with in the offseason can fuck off. This is what you're supposed to do when you're a super young player that got turfed by his team at the end of the season, who has a lot of eyes on him, but maybe you don't know what to do with like a 6'4" tall midfielder. So what if he's trialing with more than one team? Why do you care so much? Why do you think that is such a shameful thing? Lots of players go to Europe and trial at more than one team in the off season or during a break.
Who are these people? Honestly,
I saw it in more than one thing. I was like, what is your damage?
So like whoever these mental giants are, obviously you've been blessed with never having to apply for a job. Or if you did, you only submitted one resume and they hired you immediately.
Yeah.
Because that's not how it actually fucking works for most of the free world.
You've never had to play resume roulette, have you?
No, absolutely not. You can tell because they opened their mouth. Of course you try out. Of course you try out multiple places. It may not even necessarily be a case that he's not good enough to play for them.
No, not everybody's going to work with someone's system or preferred whatever.
We've had tons of players. Toronto FC has had tons of players over the years who were good somewhere, came here, were dog shit, left and were good. Like João Plata, anybody? Yeah. Little guy, they sub him on. He runs fast in a straight line, scored a few goals, and they figured him out. But then he went to Salt Lake City, and man, it must have been rough because he had a whole fucking career there where they made him a designated player. We had him. Don't forget that, guys. We had him. We had a designated player caliber guy not getting paid designated player money. So it's because he just didn't fit in our system.
Exactly.
And Noble Okello will not fit in every team system.
No. Sorry. So I hope he actually has signed on with Zombie Shivas. I think he could be a good fit for them. I sort of looked to see if it's official, but it seems like he may have landed there. But regardless, I want good things for Noble Okello. Anyone who listens to this podcast knows what a huge fan I am of this young man. He has such a future, and he is just delightful. So good luck, Noble. Anyway, so TFC have depth issues, and they often do, and they have had, although again, I still think there's lots of players they should have hung on to, but that's my opinion. So you have this great starting 11, and I will say great. Like, I look at it, and again, we haven't seen them play yet. That's still like a week and a half away. Oh my God, it's a week and a half away. Anyway,
it's right there.
Wow, damn it. Oh, we have to do a preview next week. God damn it. So there is, Victor Vasquez is probably, and maybe Michael Bradley, old, are probably the main concerns in that 11. And that's if Vasquez starts. But like today, it was return of the Mac and Oso. And then you had Hedges, and you had Rosted, and you had Sean Johnson, Richie Larea, Raul. I'm sorry, Raul. I will learn your last name. I promise. Amado, and then obviously Insigne and Fede. So like, that's not too shabby, right? Like you look at that and you're like, okay, like that brings something. It's the drop off after that. And I think fans have a right to be concerned about the lack of quality depth potentially. I think it's the bigger concern is for a coach that when he came on board last season, one of the things that we had talked about at the beginning of the season, one of the things he was touted as is a coach who likes to nurture and develop and coach up young players. And when he didn't think he needed them last season, that sort of stopped happening. And I think that's a concern that people should be looking at as opposed to the players they have on deck. You've got Caden Chung as a more than capable backup. You've got Lucas McNaughton. You've got JMR. Who else is still available? Who else is still available up top? Anyway, there are options, and there's young options that have shown glimmers. But it's whether or not Bob and the coaching staff are willing to / have it in them to develop these young men. I don't know. What do you think?
I feel like, and it's kind of crazy. So just bear with the.
All right. Oh, I like it when you go crazy.
I don't know. No, it's that whole what we wish to happen and the necessity to have no patience for that thing to happen organically. That is the youth system. We want to give kids a chance, but historically speaking, in Toronto FC terms, giving kids a chance means 4 substitution appearances for a total of 22 minutes. And, they didn't fizzle out. It's like, yeah, because, you can make an entire career on 4 substitutions in 22 minutes. Or in some cases, you get 3 or 4 games because starter A is hurt and everybody around him keeps changing. So he doesn't actually get to build any on-field chemistry because this is an easy schedule or this is a hard schedule. So we're going to save our good players and put out the B team. And like, it never gets to organically build at the rate you want it to, because, we got to win now. There's a push for the playoffs. We squandered May, like those usual tropes. And then there's the injury thing is real. So like, if all things being fair and equal, where nobody gets hurt and you can properly develop in the sense, like the consistency development of we're going to put these 2 players out and we're going to give them more than just, a 15-minute run out. We're going to give them meaningful. We're going to give them the first half and we'll take them off at halftime if it's not working out, et cetera, et cetera. But because of the pressure and also too, and there's also like a talent gap. And this is one of the things I've often said about MLS is that it's absurd to me that you'll put a player on the pitch who makes, $8 million and he's supposed to do something from a kid who's making the league minimum.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to either of them. That's not fair for the kid to be on the pressure, putting that on a platter for that guy. And it's not fair for that guy or anybody else to expect $8 million service to an $8 million player when it's not there yet.
It's probably not even making 80,000,
Exactly. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I feel like we talk about Toronto FC, and this is probably true in a lot of clubs, but Toronto FC in particular, that there's always this, we got to go big. We got to go now.
We got to win now. We got to win now.
We got to win now. And there's never a development. There's never like a season to rest on our laurels or just like aim to be a 500 club, 14 wins, 14 losses, and the rest ties. Like just not, that's not on the cards because we have to keep going. And because of that, you don't give players that chance to have a full 90 minutes because you're down by 1. It's like, we need the 3 points because we needed the 3 points last week and we didn't get it. And the week before and we didn't get it. And we only got to draw the week. You know what I mean? It just starts because of the circumstances of the previous week, opportunity dries up. So is there a solution? Not really. I don't think there is a real good solution because, again, you're expecting rookies, kids from the youth academy, under 23s in general, who are supposed to provide Bernadeschi and Insigne internationals with awards.
Yep.
The ball.
Yeah.
Or better, you're supposed to replace those guys and produce some degree of magic in a fraction of the time. So, like, I don't know. I realize it's, that's what practice is for. That's what training is for. That's what team building is for. That's what drills are for. I get it. But because this is a performance based, and that performance is based on the 90 minutes, when the whistle goes and the whistle blows to end the thing, your opportunity is limited. All the practice in the world won't get you there. Can these kids do it? Yes. Will they be given a time to do it? Probably not. So I don't know. You can't, like, I feel like we've had players on the books who have been with the club for like 2-3 years, getting paid the full wage, but after 3 seasons have less than 15 appearances.
Yeah.
I don't know if, maybe not right this moment, but I feel like that's been a thing in the past. And that's a problem too. It's like, do you think this kid is just going to magically, grow into he's going to level up doing nothing? He's all of a sudden going to go from being obscure bench guy to being starter just because you waited another 6 months? No, that's not how any of that shit works. So I don't know if, like, also to the way MLS is structured, and I know we've beaten these horses before, and I'm sorry, we're doing it again. I'm doing it again. Is that because of the structure of the league and the way that A, it's a salary cap, and B, there's no relegation. There's no incentive. There's no pressure, true pressure to not be in last, because you can't get demoted. And because there's a cap, you can't just go and fill in those gaps with just any player who's on the market. And this is why we rely on our academies. Our academies are a good source of young talent, cheap talent, who will either fit under the cap or in some cases circumvent the cap because of their age, because of the contract they sign, which are good things. But if we don't actually use that talent as on the pitch, it's kind of wasted. So I don't know what the solution is, because I'm not the manager, and thank God I'm not, because I would totally have gotten us relegated somehow. But
well, you know what?
They need experience. They need experience. I don't care if it's loans. They need to get seasoning somewhere, and being on the bench isn't it.
Yeah. Well, I still, again, and we all know how, again, I still think letting Jayden Nelson leave is a mistake. Personally, good for him, but professionally for TFC, et cetera, bad. Again, you look at a player that, they were forced to play, who is talented, who is able to develop, and who grew his game over the season, who grew it so well that they were able to sell him for a rumored $1 million plus. So stuff like that, where if you give them that opportunity, and I'm not saying that Bob's going to keep that 11 the whole time, but again, a lot of this does come from, and we say this all the time, but if you follow Toronto teams or are aware of Toronto teams or are aware of MLSE, it's an MLSE mindset. It is what they do. And it is very much almost always a win now scenario. It's why it took so long to tear this team down. It's why it just, it should have happened 3 years ago, and it didn't, and maybe even 4 years ago. So like, there's all these things. Yeah. 4 years ago, 4 years ago. Anyway, we've got the season opener in a week and a half, which we'll talk about next week. At some point in the next month, it won't be next week. We've got other people coming on this show. We're going to have Bill Manning back on. And
he promised.
He did promise.
To our faces.
To our faces. In email and to our faces. And promised to not spill beer this time. Yes. And promised to not spill beer this time.
He also legit promised not to spill beer. Because he did.
He did. Yes. Yes.
Which may or may
Anyway,
not, I don't know if we edited that part out of the recording, but if we
I
didn't,
can't remember,
that was
but we've
real.
mentioned it so many times over the
I know,
years. But I did love that he
part of the
actually
legend.
brought it up. He was like, "I promise not to spill beer this time," and I was like, "Aw, Bill." So we'll have him on, and we're gonna ask him some stuff. Bill loves a good discussion, so yeah. So why don't we leave that for now and move on to one other thing in not local, but in Canadian soccer circles, not related to the national teams. And that is Vancouver FC. What's the nickname? Is it Space Penises? Angry Space Penises?
Look,
it needs to be shorter, man. There's too many words.
It doesn't roll off the tongue like a pony boy or handy.
No. Or an Aquaman. We need to workshop that. We really need to help.
Yeah, orbital boners. I don't know. There's something that needs to. You know what I mean? Like
Cosmic Cox, anyway, I don't know. Those guys. The other Vancouver team, which is playing in Langley, but that's fine. Whatever. Announced stadium renderings. Ooh. For the Langley Event Center, because they play in Langley, not Vancouver, and it looks nice. Like, honestly, it looks small, but it should for this league.
Yeah.
It's not meant to hold more than 6,500. Perfect.
This is what I want for every team.
Yeah, it is. It is. It was funny. I was looking at it and I was like, oh, it's very small and square or rectangular, but
I know what you mean.
Square is a rectangle. But I like that. Like, the stands have some depth to them, but they're not expansive. They everything just looks like a cool small town ground, small club ground. And, with it's got some frills, obviously. You can see where they're planning on tucking in the concessions, and you can see the one taller stand, and they've got the obligatory place for smoke, allegedly. Who knows if that's actually where it will end up being. Renderings are always different. But on paper, this is pretty nice.
Yeah. 6,500 is a nice number. Like, for capacity. Like, honestly, I don't feel like any KNPL stadium should be any larger than, we'll say 8.
10. Yeah, I was going to say 10. We'll max it out at 10.
Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it can't be bigger than that, but at the same time too.
But it shouldn't be.
Many of the cities have a stadium that big.
Yeah.
Just because you play at a 5,000 seat stadium doesn't mean you can't go and play at a 20,000 later. It's entirely up for grabs. At the same time too, you also don't have to. Well, that's it. We're only 6,000. That's all we're building. It's like this rendering has one end unbuilt. So you don't there's ways that you can easily get this probably to 10,000 without doing too much damage to the existing thing. But that's future thinking. That's like 10, 15 years from now. Who knows? And who knows? Maybe like after year 3, after 45 consecutive sellouts or whatever it is, whatever that math works out to be, that's okay. You know what? We're going to add another 10, 2,000 seats. I just want to see small, cozy stadiums for football. I don't want to I don't know how Valor does it. Like, Winnipeg supporters, I don't know how they do it, because it just seems so cavernous, so far. Yeah. And it just feels like you're lost. Like, looking at them hurts to watch. And I say that with respect, because good for you guys, because you do a good job for what you can in that giant stadium. Yeah. But even Ottawa's feels like it's closer, because it's I don't want to say properly rectangular, but it's like an old timey rectangular stadium. But I just want to play in cozy stadiums that are soccer specific, and they don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be 50 million this, 100 million that. They don't have to have private boxes and amenities and and gourmet anything. It just has to be a ground where I can go get a drink, take a whiz, and watch a game. And the luxury is and have a roof. That would be the luxury, is something overhanging on one section that I pay more for. Otherwise, this is beautiful. And I hope they can put this in every fucking community.
Well, the thing to really note about this, and this is talking about putting something in every community, and something that current and future CAMPL sides should really be paying attention to, very similar to New Mexico United down in the States, which did this their first several seasons. This is a modular stadium. This sucker's being put together in 6 weeks. I'm not fucking kidding. That's the timeline they have projected for construction. 6 weeks.
That's crazy.
6 fucking weeks. It's coming in. It's already pieces. The pieces have already arrived, or most of them. The first shipping containers housing the prefab parts arrived last week. It's basically a Lego stadium. And that's what New Mexico's stadium for the first several years was. And that place rocked. Like, if you watched any of their matches online, it was always full. It looked great. Again, it was a small ground, but it was packed and it was built to, for the fans. And they have this set up, right? Like, they're putting the supporter group in the south end, and they have a family zone, whatever, fine.
I'm not mad at it.
And the price range, whatever, it's 10 mil plus, which sounds insane, but it also gives them an opportunity to get a stadium in. It's generally affordable, because I think Langley is going to own I think Langley owns the stadium or owns the land. Owned and operated, yes, by the township of Langley. There we go. And it has an opportunity for expansion, because there are things that can be done to it. Like, it's easier to add on to than other grounds. And again, for a club of this size, for a market, all these things, this makes so much sense. So much sense. So whatever I think about what their name is or their logo, where they're located, none of that matters in terms of the fact that this is really well done. And CAMPL fans should pay attention. Clubs that are looking to join CAMPL, Electric City FC, you should be paying attention as well.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like seeing this, something modest, hopefully not too pricey. I don't know what the final cost of this is going to be.
I don't know either. It doesn't say.
But I mean, I feel like this is super attainable. And I don't mean like in Langley, obviously it is, but anywhere. And I'm not talking about your obviously name brand big cities. I'm talking about all those small ones, all those medium ones, all those ones that have teams or used to have teams in the Quebec Hockey League, the QMJHL, the Ontario Hockey League, and the Western League, because they're all exactly the type of markets that could be in this league at some point in time. And the idea of a 50-team Canadian league is amazing.
It totally is.
Oh God, please let me be alive when that happens. But yeah, this is what I mean though. This is an attainable stadium, and they can be community stadiums, but they're stadiums that are meant for soccer. So well done, Langley. Well done, Vancouver. May your space penises fly into the moon.
Agreed. All right. Well, let's get into it. What we're talking about. What's everybody talking about? The WNTXNT versus the CSA. Basically, that's what has been going on. So unless you have been living under a rock, and even then, the rocks should be able to tell you, because the ground's been shaking with everything that has been going on between the WNTXNT and the CSA over the last week. So as we talked about on last week's show, before all of this happened, because it happened the next day, Can nobody announce big news on our deadlines? No, I'm just kidding. You guys do whatever you need to do to get that respect and money.
But it would be nice. Just once.
Just once. Just, like, please.
Just do it on a Tuesday. Anyway.
Yeah, that's all we ask. Just do it on Tuesday. We almost always record on Wednesdays. Like we'll work with you guys. We're here for you. Released a statement through their players union that said lots of unkind things about the CSA, about funding being cut, about resources being cut, about inequality between the two national teams, which is something that has certainly come up before. Certainly in the last 2 years, it has come up dramatically. But especially with the resources being cut and the allegations that funding has been cut and supports have been cut, going into, and again, it shouldn't matter what tournament, but the men's was increased a gazillion fold because of their surprise qualifications to the World Cup. Well, you know what? The women always go to the fucking World Cup, and they're about to go to the World Cup again as the reigning gold medal champions, and with one of the more talented teams, probably the most talented team that the WNTXNT has had ever, certainly in a generation, and with a realistic opportunity to do something they've never done, which is not just perform really well at the World Cup, but to win it. And to have sort of the ground taken out from underneath them while they're trying to prepare for this, in 6 months, and to have to be focusing on this stuff instead of training and gelling and all these things. Oh, and then the fact allegedly, I haven't seen CSA come forth and say, oh, no, we totally have a home match planned for you guys before you go to Australia and New Zealand. There's currently no home match planned. There's no match on Canadian soil before they go to the World Cup, which is insane. Mm-hmm. I don't care where it is. I don't care if it's here in Toronto. It should probably be in BC. Make the flight easier. Might make the flight. It doesn't matter because it would be like 3 months beforehand, but it doesn't matter. The fact that there is no current plan for a match on Canadian soil before they go to the World Cup. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucked.
So that happened. And then social media, everything erupted. Everything just went like nuts. The men released a statement.
Nuts? Sorry, stop. I'm sorry. Nuts? Were you trying to do bananas and nuts?
You've never heard nuts before?
Never heard nuts before.
Really? Okay, listeners, I did not just make that up on the fly.
I don't believe it. I don't believe that you did make it up. I've just never heard it before.
But no. Those of you that have heard that before, I need you. I need your help. Anyway, so the men came out with their statement, basically full support. A lot of, again, and both statements took shots at the arrangement between the CSA and the CSB, which has been something that's been a bone of contention since last year. I think the only thing, and we'll talk about this in a little while, only just briefly, is that one thing that the men's statement did that rankled a section of Canadian soccer fans was they kind of threw the CanPL under the bus. Actually, then kind of, they drew a transport truck over it, calling it a minor league, and very, very disdainful look down their nose. Now, whether that was their intention, and I think from some of them it is. There's a level of, it's interesting. For some players, there's a level of they don't respect the league, which is ridiculous considering all we hear from Canadian players constantly, and rightfully, is that they haven't had a league of their own to play within their own country. So you know what? Just, swallow that, little boys, men, and everything else you said had good points, and then you spoiled it with that. Sorry, apparently we're talking about it right now. Mark?
It's fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I thought the minor league thing was like, I understand why they were saying it. They were trying to take a shot. I won't even call it a cheap shot, because like, if you look at it from like the kernel of where this problem actually lies, there's a good part of it that ends up at the feet of that minor league. And I mean, I feel like it was kind of disrespectful to the players who play in it. But it's not the players that play in its fault that this is the situation everyone's in.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it was a cringe. I'm not gonna lie. I cringed hard when I read that. Like, oh, did you
really do that? I know I did the same thing. I was like reading along. I was like, yeah. And then you get to that and you're like, oh, come on, guys.
They didn't deserve that. But okay. Like, but also too, I'm thinking in terms of the players, not not the blessed be the billionaires, for they need to profit. I don't. Absolutely. That's not what that's about.
Okay. Well, anyway, so, and we can debate that some more, and there's been lots of debate about that, but really we're here again to talk about more about the WTX&T, but we'll this all sort of, a lot of it goes together. And so then Janine Becky and Kristin Sinclair, who are basically the player reps. There are others, but they've been like the two main voices in this. You know, they did a bunch of interviews, and through an interview, I believe with Rick Westhead that was broadcast on TSN, they said they were on strike. They're like, we're not participating in the She Believes Pup. We're here, but we're not going to train anymore, and we're not going to play. They basically declared that they were on strike. And it was kind of like, oh shit. CSA finally put out a statement that was pretty bland, really, in terms of what was going on, and just kept trying to blow their own horn, saying that, you know, oh no, we've got a deal in the books, and we're super supportive, and we totally get it, and equality, and all caps. And it was not well received. Really, most people just rolled their eyes at it.
Yeah. And honestly, they should have rolled their eyes at it, because it's just more performative than it normally is, and it's cringy. That's more cringy than calling the KPL a minor league, because it's like, the myth that people don't understand or know how we got exactly to this situation is insane to me, because those who follow Canadian footy at any length know something's up. And those who follow it at greater lengths, like us, and probably a lot of our listeners, if not all of them, can pinpoint exactly where things went wrong or how we got in this situation. And I feel like the whole, unity, rah stuff, it's like, you shouldn't think you can get away with doing that because you just assume everybody knows nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the part that really bothers me the most, is like, you think you guys are getting away with this.
Yeah.
You think that if you put out the rightly worded press release, we're all going to go, you know what? This is blown over. Or overblown, I should say. This is overblown. They're making a big deal. Everything's fine. Sorry. Like, no, fuck that. No, you don't get a pass this easily.
12 hours later, approximately, another statement from the CSA. Oh dear gods. It's still like, I get it technically. And, this sort of thing always hangs on technicalities and legalities and what you can and cannot do very, very specifically because of where all this stuff lives, which is the province of Ontario. Anyways, the players were not in a legal strike position yet. The CSA threatened to sue them. That was their statement the next day. They were going to sue the players if they didn't play. That's a way to make everybody love you again. Build some trust. And so before I go on with that, and this is something I haven't seen brought up nearly enough, and that is when the men went on strike last year, I don't recall them being threatened with lawsuits. I don't recall that even being mentioned.
It's strange. It's peculiar.
Isn't that strange?
So strange.
So strange. So unusual and unexpected.
Yeah, it's almost as if
there's double standard.
There's a double standard. More than one standard. Is that possible?
Standard is supposed to be standard, right?
Yeah,
like it just applies, but
across the whole thing. Maybe you know what? I'm just going to assume that the CSA are still considering suing the men for that
Perhaps.
Which would be good because then they could get back. I don't know what the fuck they could get back. Maybe they can sue the men, get all that money they lost, and then
all the whoever fined us, FIFA, somebody, I don't even fucking know. There were fines, there was unhappiness, but again, the reactions. Now, again, this isn't to tar every single fan with the same brush, and I'm not doing that, but because there was lots of, who are these petulant players, millionaires, blah blah blah, what makes them think that they can do this sort of thing. But there was lots of fans that were behind them, us included. And again, it's upsetting, especially again, the matches here, the ones at the end. This is again why there was not more of an outrage from the CSA over this, because the match was on Canadian soil. And people had plane tickets and hotels and travel arrangements and money doled out. And one of the things they threw into their announcement about suing the players, they're talking about the countless fans traveling to Orlando for the She Believes Cup and the other two states because it's being held in multiple locations. You count the Canadian fans there. You tell me how many are there as opposed to what was being held here for the men. I'm not saying there are no Canadian fans going. I know there are some. I also know that it is not nearly what will travel for the Women's World Cup in the summer that would travel for a match on Canadian soil, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And to lay that in there as though they were disappointing thousands of Canadians who in the middle of February, still trying to pay off their holiday bills, knowing that March break is coming if you've got families or, all of those things. I suppose you could make a case for rolling it in around family day long weekend. Sure. Regardless, they made it sound as though half of that stadium tomorrow night, day after recording, is going to be filled with Canadian soccer fans while the rest will be American soccer fans. And that is a lie if they're trying to say that. That is absolutely not what's going to happen. If there are 1,000 Canadian soccer fans at that game tomorrow night, and this is not a knock on Canadian soccer fans, travel is expensive. Going to the States is a gamble. There's lots of reasons to not travel to this tournament because you have to pick one game unless you really have the money and resources to state hop and go to all three. That's a lot to ask. Anyway, that part really annoyed me, other than the fact again that they threatened to sue the players. So
yeah, it's it's insane. It's just fucking insane. To expect. I don't even how did the CSA think that this budget, after all the success that has been achieved in the last, we'll say 5 years, we'll just say 5 years. This is all that was that they're earmarked for a World Cup cycle. And we're going to sue them because of we don't want them to make us look bad. You already look like shit. I don't.
I know.
Like I can't
Anyway,
even try to empathize with the
they make it
CSA.
very, very, very hard.
They struggle. They work overtime to make it impossible to even try to see it through their eyes. You know, I understand with any kind of negotiation, and this is not a negotiation, this is extortion. But in a negotiation, I at least try to see it through their eyes. And it's like, here's our budget. Whoops. And it's like, you guys knew this was happening. And yet you're going to just assume like, oh, well, sorry, that's all there is for this World Cup cycle. That's all there is for, but hey, you know what?
Well, look what you managed to find for the fucking men. Yeah. Who didn't have a chance in hell of doing anything substantive at that World Cup.
Honestly,
one of the things that's been not great, but one of the, again, she's one of the representatives, Janine Becky. We'll talk more about the players' media call that they hosted and set up themselves yesterday. Was it yesterday? It was yesterday. Yes, it was yesterday. My God, the days have already started to blend. This is horrible. I hate this month. This month is going digression. Is that for everyone else? Is this month going really fucking slow somehow? Like, it hasn't been in February for like 6 weeks already. Like, I'm blaming the stupid gophers, groundhogs.
It started strong, but like it's just
anyway. So Janine Becky, endless.
Yeah.
Who was at the Men's World Cup as a commentator, as part of the media team, and was able to observe firsthand everything that was being given to the men, and the support, and the coaches, and the like everything, and looking at what is being offered to the XNT, you know, she's seen it with her own eyes. It's not just like hearsay sort of thing. And the main problem with all of this, and this goes back to the dispute between the men's team and the CSA and the XNT and the CA, although the XNT has historically much more to complain about, is a lack of transparency around many things. Obviously, the CSB thing, in terms of selling away their media and promotion rights for 10, potentially more years. I still can't believe there's an option for 20. Anyway, who does that? Bad businessman.
I mean, I understand how it got there. I genuinely do. Because if you took the trajectory as was of the men's national team, making a World Cup was not going to happen. Well, I'm just saying I understand how we got there.
They gamble everything on what happens with the men. They gambled it because
they've never had the resources to properly, for lack of a better term, commercially exploit the shit out of these teams. And they have lost so many opportunities in the last 10 years. Let's be honest, tons.
Yeah.
And they were looking at going, well, we could go and just spend $100,000, $100,000 and hire a couple of people to actually do this work for us. Or we could just take this money right here and let them fucking deal with it. And that's what they did. And they left so much money on the fucking table. And now they're like, but can we have some?
And see, the thing is,
and it sucks. But like,
and the thing is we have, when we talk about transparency, like, it's transparency for the fans as well. Like, I don't need to see every single page of their books. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the things, the issue with this, or the main thing that comes up time and again, we talk about transparency, and it has to do with the CSB, and it has to do with how the funds are done. But when you've got an issue from not one but two national teams who have no understanding of this, like, no one is asking the CSA to like photocopy their books for everyone to go through, 300 pages of whatever a deal is, but a summary of what these deals are, or what is going on, how funding is happening, should be made available. This is a nonprofit. They're a national sports organization, and too many national sports organizations are couched in secrecy. And when you've got two national teams, an entire fan base, investigative journalists, people from all level of this sport and other sports who are like, I have no idea what this is. We can't explain it. There's an issue. So actually explain it to people explain why you historically misogyny treat the two sides differently, but also like if there is an opportunity, which and this is possibly my favorite part of all of this. If I'm going to have something that laughs at the CSB statement, it's freaking hilarious. Coming in like, oh no, we wanna help. No, the CSB. No, we're nice people. Yeah. Nice people. We love the Soccers. We love everybody. No, we offer extra money. Where is it? Hold on, let me see here. We've invested close to $100 million in development of the game. Blah 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 blah. All levels. Yada yada yada. We've never been party to labor negotiations. Da 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 da. But oh yeah, we want to provide incremental resources to help further the mission and support the women's national team. They deserve the resources to be successful. Anyway, it was just who us?
Yeah.
We love soccer.
Yeah.
We support we will, you know what we're going to do? You know what we're going to do? We, out of the goodness of our soccer loving hearts, are going to provide incremental resources. And because we love them. No, this is not us. No, it's not us, guys. We're the good. It's just, anyway, there needs to be, obviously there's so much dissension. Like there's so much, one person's talking over here and one person's talking over there, and this is happening and this is happening. And there's so much going on. So the women capitulate because they don't want to get sued because none of them can fucking afford it. And it's also just abhorrent. And anyway, they're like, fine, we're going to play because you're making us play. We're playing under protest. You're making us play. And this now includes, because the window is now open, the international players are here. So the players from England are here. The players from France are here. There is, like the big guns are here and also pissed. And also talking about what's been going on. And then the players hold their own media call. One of my favorite things from the media call, watching it, the commentary on Twitter and stuff, was that Janine Becky was, she was the point person. She was calling on the reporters. She was troubleshooting the Zoom stuff. But the thing from that call, and you can read tons of stuff. There's lots of articles. There's lots of tweet threads from a number of journalists. But if you see any of the video and you see any of the screen caps, and this broke my heart and also made me incredibly angry again, is how exhausted and beat up they all look. They are just worn out from fighting this fight. And to have their attention having to be taken like this to this as opposed to focusing on the game. It's so wrong. It's fucking support the XNT. And we talk about equal funding and support, and some of it is monetary, yes, but every single player for that team has come out and said it's not about the money. The money is part of it, of course it is. It is about the resources. It is about the promotions. It is about having the same number of staff. They don't even have 25 players, or they didn't have 25 players in camp to start before this tournament. It's bumped up now because the international players have arrived, but they have limitations set on them, and they keep being told that the money's not there. And up until a couple years ago, the funding was a little more equal. And again, because the women, as we've talked about, drove this program. But you still got less hype around the women's team, right? The Olympic gold should have put this way over the top. And very briefly it did, like very briefly. You saw a little bit more, like you saw some bus shelter posters. You saw, just a little bit more things. But then and again, COVID didn't help, but the gold medal tour was pretty well botched. Last minute announcements only, it was very confusing. And again, they're going into a World Cup, and there should be nonstop promotion about this. There should be constant talk about this. We should be getting newsletter after newsletter. There should be, promos on TV. And this is the sort of thing we talk about, the equality nature of it. It's not that the women necessarily want to get paid. Of course they do. Every person who does something like this wants money. And if they haven't been paid for last year at all yet, it's interesting. Again, I don't know how all the payments from FIFA and CONCACAF, I don't know how that works. So maybe CSA has something there because maybe they don't have the money yet. Maybe they haven't received their payments. I don't know. So I'm not going to give them too much crap for that, but it still seems a bit shitty that they haven't been paid at all. But it's about the equality of the support from the CSA, from leveraging their media partners, from leveraging their sponsorship partners to make sure that they have adequate resources. They have trainers, they have coaches, they have, they can bring their family along, that they don't have to fly economy or pay for their own flights, things like that. So that is what the players for the XNT are talking about, in case you misunderstood.
Yeah. I feel like back to the comment about the screen caps of them looking, beaten down and broken. I feel like that is probably more telling than whatever score lines they get at the She Believes Cup. Seeing somebody feel completely demoralized about the thing you want them to do is obviously, like, it's depressing. It's depressing as a human. It's worse as a soccer fan. It's worse as a supporter to know that the people that you will cheer on, you will go and buy tickets for, you will go and sing the songs, stomp your feet, and buy the merch if you can fucking get it.
Yeah. You want a revenue source? Make merch available, you fucks.
You just have to look at their body language, and that's, to me, that's the saddest part. Because we all know that they've gone through these fights many times, repeatedly, over some sort of cheap out fuckery, whatever you want to call it, that they're doing. And I don't know if I would want to think that these players want to give it their all. And don't misinterpret. I'm not saying that they don't want to play for Canada. But why the fuck would you want to if that was you? Why would you want to?
So Sophie Schmidt, right? She was gonna just quit.
Exactly. Like, why would you want to give any more of your time, life, and energy to a place that doesn't respect your contributions? We're not even, and in this case, this is not even an individual level. It's the whole group. If you've ever worked somewhere that's shit, and you just look around every time you go into work and people are just like, what the fuck am I doing here? At least you can probably go and get another job. This is a chunk of their livelihood. In some cases, it's a massive chunk of their livelihood.
Yep.
But and we're not talking about people who are millionaires. This isn't a case of like people being spoiled. This is just like, look, you want us to perform. You want us to represent Canada, and let's be honest, realistic intention to at least medal, if not win the fucking thing. But you want us to do it at a discount. Like, that's insane. And the discount isn't like it, like you said, it's not even about the money that they're getting paid, which may or may not have to do with it, but it's all the other little things. So you want us to do this with half the staff, 2/3 of the actual player personnel that we need, and 1/3 of the times we get to do it, but still somehow show up against England and Australia and New Zealand and France and Brazil and Japan. Like, you want it like that. You've already started them six spaces before the start line, but you're expecting them to, like, they're going to do it for Canada. I'm sorry. The pride is a myth, and we're just talking about giving them what they deserve. For Janine Becky to be over there and see everything with her own two eyes, it's almost like that's truly the most insulting part, because you can't even lie to her. You can't even say, well, that's overblown. You didn't see that. That didn't happen, because she was there. We saw her on television. We saw her. We know that it happened. We know she was there. So there's no reason not to believe her. And also, I don't think it's you. If you're questioning her or anybody on this, like, well, it's not really that bad. It's like, just simply go and compare what the men had versus what the women are being offered. And if you really truly still think that this is overblown, this is making a mountain out of nothing, you don't give a fuck about Canadian soccer, you don't give a fuck about Canadian women's soccer, and you don't give a fuck about the health of it going forward at all. If you want your national teams, any level, to put forth their best effort and be proud of them because they were given every ample opportunity to succeed, knowing that they were not actually given every possible thing to help them succeed, you're insane. You're just insane. This is such a tragedy. It really is a tragedy. And I applaud every single one of the members of the team who find yet another level of depth to just dig in and press on. Because I'd have fucking quit so long ago, but I'm also not anywhere near their level. So I don't know what the solution is.
No, I don't either. Not the current
infrastructure. That's bugging for sure.
Yeah. So before we move on from this, and again, we're gonna talk about this next week. We'll probably talk about it the week after. Like, there's lots to talk about. We're hoping to have a special guest on next week who has a more intimate knowledge of all this. I won't say any more, just in case their schedule doesn't line up with ours, or vice versa. Anyway, so their first match is tomorrow, and we'll talk about that in a minute, versus the US. It's the big match. Then they play on Sunday, and they play next Wednesday. As we mentioned, the players of the XNT are not currently in a legal strike position. They will be the next international window, and they have stated quite plainly that if this is not resolved, or if there are not great strides made to resolve this before that window, they will not play. And more power to them. They trained today with their tops inside out, so as to not show the CSA logo. And honestly, who could blame them?
Every bit of protest is good.
Yeah. It sucks that this has to be going on, but honestly,
my problem is that I don't have faith in the Canadian Soccer Association
to resolve this.
Not even so much to resolve this, but to resolve this in anything that resembles a timely manner. Like, by the time they get their head out of their ass, they'll probably have added, a second camp with a few more staff and all the players, which is good, but that's still not all the staff that they need, plus all the players, plus 3 camps that everyone else has access to. Like, they're going to find a really weak middle ground, air quotes, solution when it's time will have run out. Like, the really important time will have run out, and go, well, look, well, we gave you this. What happened? It's like, no, you should have never put them in that stressful position in the first place. You should have listened to them every step of the way, from qualification, the thing that you oversee, to this. I don't trust the Canadian Soccer Association to find anything even vaguely resembling a reasonable solution to this in a timely manner, such that the Canadian women's national team can effectively perform at the level we want them to. We know they can, and that the world would be shocked to see. So that's I think that's the worst part of this. The fact that they're here is shit. It's dog shit. But if there's a resolution, it's going to be not good.
Well, I am hoping, because I am ever hopeful, as you all know, that the fact that the team, the WNT Alumni Association also spoke today, issued a statement of support, highlighting, decades of inequality. So you've got current players, you've got former, they're going to go on strike, and I believe they will do it. I 100% believe that if there is not, again, meaningful movement or some kind of resolution, partial resolution, full resolution, whatever, by April, that these players will not play. I 100% believe that, and I am 100% behind them. But I do think, I hope that this it's not drama for drama's sake. These are, again, all you have to do is, like I said, just look at the faces of the 4 players that did that media call on Tuesday, and you tell me if they are just like doing this frivolously. They are risking their reputations, their livelihoods, their ability to play, and because of inequality within their program. And like, the CSA they'll start losing sponsors instead of sponsors running towards them. Although the only thing that will save them in that regard is that there's a World Cup here in 3 years for the men. And that's all anyone cares about. Huge sarcasm font there. But also resigned true font there. But who's gonna want to like book games with them? Who's gonna want to, what internationals of dual citizenship is gonna want to come play for this program? No matter how respected Bev Priestman is. Although, again, in an interview today, she started talking about, no, she's not sure about her future now. Like, who wants to stay and coach within this program for this side? Again, I am hoping it's not so much that they're going to find like their heart's not going to go 3 sizes like the Grinch. I think it's more that the reputation and the loss of everything from outside of this community is going to like finally hit them, and they'll be like, shit, we have to do something, because this is all going to fall down around us and not in a good way. And I think I'm hoping, that will be the thing that spurs them into action to negotiate faithfully. And anyway, there's so much, but it has to be resolved. They've got to do something, and they've got a month and a half to do it. And that's it.
I appreciate your optimism.
I know. I occasionally there's more than one time in my life I wish I could just like excise that part of my personality, but it refuses to go away no matter what is happening everywhere. And even as cynical as I can be, I still always have this. Again, you've known me for a long time. You're well aware of my glimmers of hope. They just won't go away. All right. What's coming up? Why? It's the She Leaves Cup. There's two things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the She Leaves Cup very briefly on a slightly more, I don't know, upbeat note. So the match, as we've said, is tomorrow night, day after recording. The first match, Canada versus the US, and then versus Brazil on Sunday at 5. And then their final match is next Wednesday afternoon versus Japan. Now, the match tomorrow against the US and is they're all tough matches. These are all good tests. And if the players weren't fighting another fight, I'd be really hopeful for some like really strong games. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but the match against the US, and we talked about this before we started recording, and I've had this conversation with a couple other people, and Mark, I think you're correct in your estimation more than the way I'm sort of looking at it or hoping, because there's fines, but also there's like, your competitive nature takes over. But the U.S. women's national team, having recently fought a battle for equal pay, equal support, funding, all of those things with their federation and winning. And many of the American players have spoken vocally throughout this whole week, as recently as today, from training at the She Believes Cup. And what I would love to see, if they could get away with it without everybody being fined and whatever, is if tomorrow they just basically acted out everyone's favorite Simpsons scene featuring soccer, where the center just holds it. That is what I want for 90 minutes. That's it. They're playing technically. Anyway, I can't even do a score prediction for this. For any of these, I just can't do it. I don't know anymore. I don't even care anymore. That's the thing. There's lots of good players there. Watch them all. Or don't. If you feel like you need to protest this and boycott it, do that too. I don't care. The players are encouraging people to speak their minds. If you're at the games, make signs. Awesome. Wear t-shirts, turn your back on the game. I don't know. If you're watching online, tweet, protest things, put up pictures, make placards for your home. Have that. Tag your favorite player, put it on Instagram. Who knows? Anyway, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know what the right answer is here. In a perfect world, this game turns into an all-star skills competition for 90 minutes.
Ooh.
Like silliness, gimmicky stuff.
Oh, let's do run up penalty shots.
Oh, maybe not. It would have to be still within the framework of the game because the ref is still going to call it.
All right, fine.
But lazy comical tackles. And I mean lazy in the sense that they're not actually tackling. They're just I just gently stick my leg out. Just imagine, if you will, you're sitting on your couch and you drop the remote and it's just a little bit out of the way. And you have to stick your foot out to kind of claw it in. That's how far that leg's going to go out for a tackle. That's what I'm talking about. Maybe 20 degrees from straight, and that's it. That's all the effort they put into it. And if the score gets run up, whether one-sided or both sides, I'm okay with that too. If they decide they want to get into the center circle and just head the ball back and forth like a game of volleyball, the ref's not gonna I don't know if they can call that as what the hell's going on. I want it to be subversive, but the thing is this. As much as I would like them to just all stand around and do the Simpsons bit, you have a lot of people who are not just Canadian fans, but just soccer fans in general who are going to travel to this game. You kind of got to put on a something. Now, if Canada wants to just take their foot off the gas and field a B team as best as they can, whatever, and just get blown out 20-0, or even if they just have a side hush, look at 5, can you just, take it easy on us? That kind of thing. I'm
comically
okay with
miss the net or something. Yeah.
like breakaways and then just blast it straight up in the air and then find the camera, cheat to it and go, oops, my bad. You're like, just whatever. I want them to just or like about to like get a breakaway to score and then just stop dead in their tracks and then just walk away from the ball, sitting in the 6-yard box and nobody's touching it. It's like, I want to see that. I want to see subversion, which would be like, remember when I went to that game and Canada was just fucking around? It was so hilarious. Like, that's the thing. Now, this is assuming a lot. I don't know. I mean, I suspect that they're just gonna have to go for it because why the fuck else are they there?
Yeah.
But anything that they do is okay. Like the protests that you listener want to do, watch it or don't, make a sign or don't, protest out loud or in silence or not, whatever. It's genuinely, it's okay. It's totally okay. You're not less of a fan or more of a fan if you do one or the other. And anybody who tells you otherwise is an idiot. Don't listen to idiots. Listen to us, Vocal Minority, on all podcast platforms. But like, honestly, it's okay. And I think I would actually be interested in watching about like 15 minutes of this and see
I just
how
want
it
to see
goes.
what they're going to do off the jump. Yeah, exactly.
What they're going to do. Like even just to see the protest for the first whatever few minutes, and then they decide to play the game. You shut it off. Then I'm sure somebody with the metrics is going to go, okay, everybody watched to see their protest and then quickly logged off as soon as the game resumed. Because that's a form of protest, because somebody's going to get that report, guys. Someone's going to get that report and they're going to look at it and go, oh shit. People are specifically not watching this. They deliberately tuned in to turn off. I can't, that what's the difference between that and leaving the ground after the first 5 minutes at a protest? The only difference is if you do that kind of quietly, everybody doesn't see it, but somebody does. and if that can raise even the eyebrow just slightly twitch, doesn't even have to be both eyebrows. Good.
Yep. I concur. Anyway,
3-1 US. There we go.
Sure, why not?
I'm just
4-2. You know what? No. You know what? 4-4.
Wow. 4-4. I love your optimism now.
Yeah.
I was on board just supporting it, but now I'm here for it completely.
But versus Brazil, I'm thinking
Brazil's
2-1
showing
Brazil.
up 2-0.
Might be 2-0. I'm still going to go with 2-1. Versus Japan, though.
I can see
1-0 Canada versus Japan.
I was going to say, if we're going to go the whole protest and then go for it, this is the go for it game. I think Japan loses 2-0.
Yep. All right. Awesome. Okay. One last thing before we go that is not about the XNT, although again, support them. Send them messages if you want. They love getting the messages. Share your support online or just support them internally. But please understand that these players, these athletes, these amazing people who have done so much for Canadian soccer deserve your support. If you are a fan of Canadian soccer, if you're a fan of the sport, they deserve your support and your love and all of those things. Because man, without these guys, Canadian soccer would be so much less than it has been because of everything they have done through the years. True. And if you've gone to matches, this is my, how many men's matches have you been to when there was like 500 Canadian fans, 1,000 Canadian fans? Now, how many women's matches have you gone to, or XNT matches have you gone to where that was also the case? None? Right.
Burn.
So,
in your face.
Like seriously, y'all show up for the men when they're winning. Like that's it. Like we watched the CONCACAF qualifying cycle. We were at all the matches. Yeah. The first match, there was not a lot of Canadian fans. The second match, slightly more. I get it. it's tough when you feel like you've been burned a lot. But again, you've had a side that consistently wins shit. Like, oh, I don't know, 3 Olympic medals in the last decade. So, and people go to their games. And if there were more games here in Canada, more people would go to those games. But people go to those games. Those stadiums are always, always full of fans.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry. I can just talk about this for like 7 hours. I apologize.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Our
Switching
show was
gears.
running short. It's good. It's good. People will get upset. Those of you who are expecting long episodes,
Oh yeah, if you have like a long drive,
You're
or
trying.
you're walking somewhere,
We're
you're commuting.
I'm not even trying to channel Duncan and or Tony because I don't want to make these a 4-hour episode.
That's a
And
good point.
My Tony impression sucks. So
It's not your best. You
It's-
do
no,
some good
I've
work,
done-
but that one's not your best. It's true.
thank you. We all know that's the important thing.
So something that we've talked about recently or alluded to. Anyway, Mark and I went on an adventure. We got to meet just tomorrow.
Yeah, we did.
Um,
Why were we there?
but we got to see the new TFC kit.
Yeah, we did.
Oh!
Well, yeah,
You know what? It's actually pretty nice in person.
it's not.
It's
It's-
now
yeah.
now having seen some of the new releases, it's not that level. It's
No.
certainly no Portland.
No,
Portland, you
it's not.
fuckers. I love you so much. Your beautiful kits. Again. How dare you?
Is this where I say keep it in your pants? I can't. I don't know.
Probably. No,
okay.
seriously.
It's-
Okay, I'll
yeah.
fan.
There's, there's at least a show or two coming about all this shit.
yeah.
I guaranteed.
But
But
what that kit looked like on the hanger in those pictures does not do it justice.
Nope.
I gotta tell you. And you will get to see it this weekend. The official kit release is Saturday, I think, Mark.
I believe so. I believe it's Saturday. Saturday. I know
Saturday.
this. I know this for fact.
Saturday.
I know this for fact. Because
But yeah, we were pretty lucky that we got to actually see that kit up close and hold it and stuff,
yeah.
aren't we?
Yeah, no, I that's honored. I think it's
Yeah.
a good way of putting it. Yeah, it's it looks great.
It does.
I'm not at liberty to tell you any details, nor is Kristin, but we are definitely
No.
not at liberty to speak on details.
We're not. We wish we were.
Yeah, there's
There's
reasons.
so many details. There's
So many-
reasons. There's really,
so many
really good and relevant reasons.
so many reasons.
So many reasons. Next week.
Well, can I?
Hey,
let me get ahead of this. Let me get ahead of this.
Okay. All right.
The reason why we can't tell you is because because we were told that we can't talk about it until it does get released. And the reason why we got to see it at all is because I helped with designing the kit.
Yeah, you did.
And it sounds like a
you
joke.
did.
It sounds like I'm
It's
making
not.
shit up. And Kristin has photographs proving my fucking contribution.
So many photographs.
Yeah.
Like 57 photographs.
Yeah, there's so many. And we're not going to share any of them because,
We're not allowed.
well, we're not allowed, but also both you might see it at the stadium and you might see it elsewhere. And when that one, if it shows up at the stadium, if I leave abruptly, you'll know why. I mean, I'll watch it because I want to see what it looks like, but anyway, too many details. I was asked 2 weeks. Fuck. I was asked over 2 years ago, courtesy of Kristin, via friend of the show, Bill Manning, if I would be interested in helping out with the kit design. No bullshits. And I told Kristin about it. Shortly thereafter, well, mind you, she was kind of the conduit, but me agreeing to it and the steps of the way, I happily, we said we didn't even tell the other two. And I know they don't listen to the show, but we told them like about 6 months ago. So like, and I just kept it. I wanted to keep it silent for obvious reasons that nobody needed to know. Truly, nobody needed to know. Also, it wasn't entirely certain about the non-disclosure, but as it turns out, I probably could have. Still, in my best interest to shut the fuck up, which I did and have until now. So, we will talk about this at length next week. About whatever the fuck you want to know about it.
Yep.
Or if listeners, if for whatever reason you want to hear about it, and you got a question about it, socials, comment on the show notes. Join Mr. Fishhead. I'm sure he's going to have some great questions because Mr. Fishhead.
Oh my God. I can't wait.
Weekly,
Mr. Fishhead.
Okay. So those of
please come find us in the stadium this year. Like I am dying to meet you. This is killing me.
For those of you who are hardcore, do y'all self a favor. Go look up the last couple, maybe 5 or 6 show entries on the website, and go waddle down to the comment section. And there's usually only 1 or 2 comments, and they're exclusively Mr. Fishhead.
They're glorious.
Brilliant. He is. It's almost like the 4 of us became a person and then listened to our show. And that is a compliment because as Mr. is the giveaway. He is right on top of this. And it's frightening sometimes, the stuff he comes up with. It's genius. So anyway, go join him if you got a question. And we will definitely go through it. And or hit me up on the Twitters. I know this feels like we're doing the outro. At Kittner
well,
Mark,
we're singing into it. We really are.
Yeah,
but
like just ping us and we will definitely answer it next week. But
yes, definitely.
I genuinely hope when this is all said and done, you don't need to love it. If you love it, fabulous. I mean, if you do, that's great.
If you hate it, don't be a dick, okay?
But if you hate it, I need you to understand something. My influence was not as direct as you think it might have been. I will explain all next week, but that was within the project, and that's as much. It's not really a trade secret. Honestly, it's not. But if that builds a little bit of suspense to next week, then so be it. But
I like it.
Yeah. And right. I was so happy that Kristin was there for Media Day.
Me too. It was so cool.
It was just awesome that somebody else could witness the insanity that was going around us, because it was crazy.
It really was. Like, it was
crazy. Just like tomorrow or next week. Next week we'll talk about Media Day.
Next week we'll talk all about it, but very cool experience. Very cool.
It was like what you imagine, like if Marvel movie studios had an office, like a proper office, and you saw like Robert Downey Jr. just sitting down in a chair looking up Twitter. It was kind of like that, except replace them all with TFC. It was like this magical place. It really was so bizarre and awesome at the same time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
agreed. All right. Okay. Well, on that really fun and upbeat note, that's our show for this week. Please join us next week when we talk more about the TFC kit.
Pretty sorry.
Update everyone on what's been going on with the XNT versus the CSA, but also their results at the She Believes Cut. Look ahead to TFC season opener, and I guess the MLS season. God, we haven't done any of our usual stuff. And whatever else, dear gods, please don't let anything else happen in the world of football, because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a 3-hour show next week. Holy crap. I have been joined by the always effervescent and wonderful Mr. Mark Hinckley, to be found out there on the Twitters at KitNerdMark with a K, not a Q.
You're forever a delight, Kristin. Forever a delight. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for continuously showing their support to our show. We absolutely appreciate it. You can find the link to that, as well as our Zazzle shop, which Tony does also good work on. You'll find both of those links at vocalminority.ca. And just not that kit thing, but like the MLS kit thing is, I hate how many of them are really, really good so far. The average is just, I'm reeling in it. I keep going back to I think it was USA Today has like a running of everything that's been released. And it's like, it's good. It's actually good.
It's like hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
Yeah. Spoiler, Houston's got actually a pretty decent ass kit. So
I really like it.
So like,
not just because it's orange.
That's kind of, to me, that's kind of like, if Houston's kit is above like a D+, okay, this might be a really good season. This is going to be a good vintage.
It'll be one of those years people talk about. Yep. All right. The other two, you know where to find them, at Malarkey FC and Duncan D. Fletcher on the Twitters. But as for me, you can find me on the internet. Yes, the entire internet at KZ Knowles. I have been your host, Kristin Knowles. And until next week, Canada, get used to it, but don't get used to inequality.
No, fuck that.